at this point, um, at this point, Biden is leading. Um, it is looking like he has the road to victory. We don't know for sure. Again, at this point, we're recording it. So let me ask you guys: do you have an expectation of difference, better, worse? What are your expectations going forward? So I'll go in reverse. So Ben, I'm gonna start with you on this one. Do you have an expectation for the next
My
Biden president?
expectation,
Yeah.
I some of it's gonna depend on what's happening with the Senate. I believe the Senate might still be going to the Republican majority.
Mm-hmm.
So if that happens, there's nothing happening. Joe Biden's not getting anything done because the Republicans control the Senate. Whoever controls the Senate controls all the laws and legislation. So I don't see anything happening unless they have some kind of Senate support.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is that Joe Biden is just a big corporate guy. He's just gonna do what the donors want. So it's gonna be like Trump like, basically. None of the garbage talk. None of the garbage talk. Do all the stuff that the donors like and throw us a bone here and there and make it look like they're doing something. A lot of symbolic nonsense, but I really don't see any major change coming with them, to be quite honest.
Jared, what do you think? Next 4 years, if Biden wins, do you see a difference? Do you see change, better, worse? What do you think?
It was going to reverse. I thought Rel was next, man.
No, you next. Rel went
I
first last time.
retorted.
Stay attention. Come on.
I went first, then Rel.
No, Rel went first. You can't. No, wait.
He is interrupted.
You moved. That's what happened. You switched.
He just chimed in afterwards. He
Yeah,
chimed
you
in
switched boxes.
afterwards.
That's what it was. Okay, fine. But go. Go, Jared.
Do I think it gets better? It's uncertain. You would hope for the best, and that's all we do every day. I think that's what we've been doing every day since. For some people, that's what everybody prayed for since day one of Trump. That's what some people prayed for under Obama. That's what people pray for under Bush. We all pray for a better tomorrow. So we just hope Biden is the right person to move us still in the right direction or move us into the right direction. It's dependent on, in terms of economy, I think U.S. economy is still going to be good. But tempers are going to flare. And that's what I think is going to lie down to, the temperature of the people. Because now that you have this it's kind of had a little 60s renaissance when it's come to people's feelings, minus the dogs and the hydrants and the water hoses. We've had from us, people who never lived in that time period, who've seen the images and so forth. We kind of had that, where you're protesting, you're marching, and you've had a lot of rebuttal from people, whether it be physical violence, intimidation, and so forth. So it's like, how do you move past that? Because you just can't forget. You can't just forget that shit. You can't act like that just did not just happen. So it's really dependent on what happens after. Because nobody's going to be 100% happy. Nobody's going to be 100% happy if Biden wins. Nobody's going to be 100% happy if Trump wins. But you have more of a politician who's running the country, whereas Trump is more of a businessman. And whether he's a good businessman or bad businessman, he's still business. Mm-hmm. He's a talking head. He was basically the second or third actor or acting type person to get his office. You have Kennedy, you had Reagan. So it's tough to call in and say, is it going to get better? You will hope so, but it really comes down to the people, because people have to band together. And I think Biden had a nice, we saw it earlier, Biden had a nice try to like coming together or coming together moment with his, talking about it wasn't like a victory speech, but it was like how he felt confident about winning this election and so forth.
It was a halftime speech.
Really, it was the halftime speech. Yeah, the halftime speech, but it was a nice one because if he did win, it's a nice start to try to mend fences, you know, to say it doesn't matter if you're red or blue, whatever, and so forth. Like, we need to all come together and move this country. And that's something that you generally don't hear from the other guy. You know, you hear a lot of vitriol and so forth coming from him, or try to like finger pointing and blaming and so forth. And a lot of triple talk. His name is double talk. He'll say the same thing 3 times. But maybe Biden has better speechwriters. But
It's a possibility. Or at least he listens to the speechwriters.
Or he
or
sticks to the
he
script.
actually
That's what it
listens
is.
and right. But that's him being a lifelong politician. So that's that's the good thing. But if and I think Obama had the House and he had the Senate at one point. Maybe I think his first or his second term, or somewhere in between. But because I know the Senate does it every 2 years and so forth. But or every 8 is it? I can't remember. I can't remember. Senate or Congress. You know,
I think the Senate is every 2.
So yes, I think it was somewhere in 2 years that he had both.
We're not news anchors or politicians, so please feel free to correct us.
Matter of fact, I actually don't think the Senate is every 2.
No, I think it's every 6.
I think
Yeah.
I think
It's
that's
every 6 years, and I think the House is every 4.
yeah.
The House is every 4 because the entire House was up for grabs this time.
Yeah.
So
Right. I think
somebody's every 2. I can't remember, but I think Obama had that for a small time, and if numbers hold true, you know, Democrats still have the House, Republicans may still have the Senate. It comes down to that because honestly, yes, we know the president is just the figurehead, the leader, but shit don't get done unless the House agrees to it and the Senate agrees to it. So all presidents can say, look, we're going to do X, Y, Z. And unless it doesn't pass through those 2 places, it's not going to work. So you really need to have somebody who can finesse both sides of the aisle to try to get shit done. And if Biden is that person who can pull enough favors on the other side of the aisle, then so be it.
Bro, what do you think?
Well, people know me. I just care about the people. I'm all about the people. And when I look at any president or politician, I'm just interested in how we can get rid of this system that we have that oppresses people that it oppresses. So that's how I'm looking at how he's going to perform. When it comes to the economy and stuff, like, I mean, it's been a while since there's been a deep recession in the United States. And so I think economy-wise, it's probably going to be more of the same. Maybe little dips here and there, case may be, but I don't think we're going to see a drastic impact by Biden in those lanes. So I'm not even thinking about that. But we needed Trump out of office, in my opinion, because he just was not, as far as for what America is supposed to be, for him to be the representation of that was ridiculous. I think other countries, when they looked at who we selected as a president, that had to be a joke to them. Like, I can't imagine. I can only imagine them being on a Zoom call, like, yo, do y'all see who like they picked to be the president? Like, you know, like it's like a laughing stock. And the thing he comes out, things he says, he doesn't care. And like sometimes I feel like he forgets that he's the president. Like things he tweets and stuff. And it's like for him to then embolden a country, not a whole country, but, you know, the races in the country to come out and just be blatantly racist. Like, we know they held these feelings, but now it's like, well, if the president could say these things, then who's going to tell me I can't come out and do this? And that element, to me, that can't be around. So, I mean, it's unfortunate that he already brought him out. So who's to say if he doesn't continue, they're going to fall back? There's no guarantee of that, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I think that type of damage, we can't have more of that. So, I mean, if he does lose, I'll be happy to see him out for that reason. But that doesn't mean that I believe that Joe Biden is going to come in and all of a sudden he's going to change the situation for people of color and try to even the playing field and make sure everybody has the same opportunities. I don't have any faith in him do that. All I've seen from him is just the opposite as far as his prior career. So he's talking a lot of cool stuff now, but anybody can write a speech, tell you to memorize it and say those things. So, I mean, Who cares? Last I remember when you were making decisions, you were like, yeah, put them niggas in jail, bro. Like, that's what I remember from Joe Biden, co-signing that stuff. So like, that's what I've seen him do. So he's talking about stuff he wants to do. So we'll see if he's really real about that, and to Jared's point, what influence he can have to make those things happen, because he just can't do stuff on his own. But I don't have any faith in him improving any the situation of people of color in this country. Again, I hope I'm wrong. So and if he wins, that would be what I would want, because then that would be removing Trump out of office. But I'm not. It's not like hey, he's in, we're gonna be good. Like I was hyped to vote because I have an assemblywoman in my district who is always fighting for the people. She's always trying to make sure that people in this district I've been at rallies like next to her, like walking arm in arm with her. She's there. She got maced by Barclays in a rally. Like she's really there and feet to the pavement fighting for the people, and like that's something I could get behind. So when I saw that she was up for re-election, I'm like, that'll get me there before anything else. You know what I'm saying? So like that's somebody I say, well, I expect her to continue to try to improve our conditions and stuff like that. But Biden is like, whatever. He's a figurehead. He's a president. He's gonna have different people pulling his coattail, a lot of different interests that he needs to satisfy. So I'm not sure how much he'll even have left for us. But I'm not hyped at all.
I posted a quote on Instagram, and it was inspired by a conversation I was having with my sister while I was, relaxing down with the family, and I basically said that Joe Biden is the personification of the American politician, and Donald Trump is the personification of America.
Yes, 100%.
And it's like, like I said, it was sparked from a conversation I was having, and it was just like, when you think of politics, you think of Joe. He says, like you said, the speeches. He says a bunch of things, and we see what he has done. And with Trump, it's what a lot of other countries think of us as Americans when they think about us. The rich billionaires, and say stuff braggadocious, and foul-mouthed, and multiple wives, multiple kids, and it's a description that is ill, wrongfully put on a lot of us, but that's what they think when people think of America. They, like you said, Rel, like imagine when he was elected, a lot of countries was like, look at, but they might have been like, that makes sense. What I'm saying? When we think of America, we think about, we've seen him on The Apprentice. What I'm saying? So we know who this dude is. Like, yeah, he represents America. What I'm saying? He looks like the American, again, not all of us per se, but
right.
When people think about the negatives of America and American society, he checks a lot of those boxes. What I'm saying? Sure. And, and Joe on the other side is, when we think about a politician, he's been in politics for 40 years, and he's said a lot of things, done a lot of other things. And like you said, he's still used to the old rules and the old way of doing things. And we got to see now, I think they said if he's elected, he'll be the oldest president we've ever had.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, so we don't, I mean, I ain't trying to wish death on him, but what I'm saying? It's just that he's still so old school, what can we expect from him? Like you said, can the corporations get into his pocket still? If that's how he was used to doing things, or the expectations is not high, because of his reputation. So, I agree with all of you guys.
Yeah, like you guys said, but like you guys gotta remember, the biggest thing I feel like it's because the Democratic parties ran a certain way. That's why the legislation and stuff is gonna be a certain way. It's not gonna be what we really would want. Right. I think that's the biggest problem with the politics right now. Like, the Democratic Party is supposed to represent the people, but they still don't. They represent corporate interests, and they just do it in a veiled way. That's it. Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not going to be a big. The biggest change is that, yes, there's going to be some smart people finally doing some stuff correctly,
Yeah.
and not screwing stuff up so frequently. But it's just gonna be typical politician,
Back to normal.
status quo,
Right, status quo,
keep it
right.
moving,
Right.
tell the people what they want to hear, and
But-
just do what we got to do.
And Terrell's point, like he said too, the man in office will go back to status quo, but now that the previous man, emboldened a half of the country, now where do they go? Do they continue on that path that they've already, jumped on? Because they're riled up, like, and
they're gonna look for their next person that's gonna follow that trend. I feel like whoever emboldens them, whoever emboldens them is that's who they're gonna probably.
They're still fighting for Trump, because like we
exactly.
said, the votes right now are still being counted and still coming in, and they're like, we don't like that. They're cheating. He said he told us you were gonna do this. We don't believe, So they still angry and hungry, and we live in New York City. For those out of state and stuff, Fifth Avenue was getting boarded up. Stores the election night, they didn't know what was gonna happen, and to let people know they weren't worried about us. It wasn't us they was fearful of. Just to be clear, because people like to say, "Oh, no, we weren't the ones about to, argue about an election." His people was ready to, and they still are.
Yeah.
So be clear who was going to be out there, who they were boarding up for.
And
not a protest for Black lives or anything. This would be a riot of rage because of an election.
Mm-hmm.
We don't win either way. So we wasn't going out there to do that. Just to be clear.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
And honestly, it's even if you're a Black Trump supporter, that's not what we do. Like they're not worried about us like that, doing stuff like that. That's not really our MO to. Like there are some of us who are, who are part of the mob, and so forth, but we're not the biggest, number in that group, to be doing shit like that.
Right.
If anything, you can go back to see like those other Black Lives Matter protests and how people were mysteriously dropping off bricks, and you have a few videos of like, hey, yo, he just delivered that. Hey man, get out of here. Like he was trying to chase people off because he was trying to do the right thing.
Right.
One thing for Joe and that whole Hillary's super predator, error and so forth. I think it was a misstep, and I think Joe definitely needs to, if he gets elected, when he gets elected properly, he needs to really make amends for that. And I don't know how you make amends for that shit. But the problem is, it wasn't just, well, yeah, but that always works. But funny.
That always works to stop the conversation. What you say? Money?
But it wasn't just Joe, and it wasn't just that. The problem was the Democratic Party listened to a lot of the Black caucus because they were trying to fix an issue from the Ronald Reagan era, which is drugs, and niggas were fucking shit up. Like niggas are high out their mind doing some wild ass shit in the 90s, and a lot of the Black families were scared of some of our own people, to the point they were begging for tougher crime shit, and the Democrats are like, you're absolutely fucking right.
So they created that environment.
My thing is that was all part of the plan, though. It wasn't like an accident, and
no, that was
like that. So that's why you don't get a pass for that for me, because that was part of the plan. So if it's one thing if Black people just stumbled upon some drug and was like, wow, what's this? And then then that'd be different. But that was all
a lot of it was done on purpose, because then they lose the power to vote. Because once you're convicted of a crime, you lose your power to vote. And where these mysterious things always pop up, lower neighborhoods. Right. It's just how it is. They just play that game.
Another quote of mine is that they always like to, blame the crabs in the barrel, but they never look at the fishermen.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The drugs is here. Yeah. We didn't bring them. We're not flying.
Yeah, if you set up to fail, you're gonna fail.
You're gonna fail. And I don't know. Did you guys hear Biden's apology about that?
An awful lot of people were jailed for minor drug crimes after the
exactly right.
Was it a mistake to support it?
Yes, it was. But here's where the mistake came. The mistake came in terms of what the states did locally. What we did federally, we said it was, and you remember, George, it was all about the same time for the same crime. What I had done as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, took the 10 circuit courts of appeals, took some really brilliant lawyers working for me in judiciary. We did a study, and we determined what happens if, for the first, second, third offense, for any crime in the criminal justice system, at the federal level, if you're a black man, it's the first time you committed robbery. How long would you go to jail on average? If you're a white man, how long? Black man would go to jail on average 13 years, white man 2 years. I go down the list of every single crime. So we set up a sentencing commission. We didn't set the time. Every single solitary maximum was reduced in there. But what happened was, it became the same time for the same crime. So it said you have to serve between 1 and 3 years. It ended up becoming much lower. Black folks went to jail a lot less than they would have before, but it was a mistake.
No, I agree.
Everybody was doing it, bro.
It wasn't a great policy and stuff, but it was what such and such wanted.
But we all did it.
It was what the Congress wanted, and I just, he didn't really take ownership on it, but you were the one standing there going through it. You presented it to the House.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So you're the face of it. You got to own that. He didn't own it. He just said it was, because you could have said no, and that was kind of what Trump was saying during the debate.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, listen, you've been here for 40 years and you had a chance to do some of the stuff you're saying, and you didn't. You did the opposite.
Well, and that kind of that one, was, even when Trump should know that you can't do things unless you have the Senate's help.
Trump
So
don't know.
I'm not gonna give him credit for that jab, but he's true that he was the one that's part of it. He was a part of it. He was a part of it for sure. He was a part of it for sure.
You can say yes, you can say no.
And but that was like I wanted to touch something that
Biden's excuse was, well, I wasn't the president.
Yeah.
And then Trump,
he signed that,
the president. You was just standing next to the president for 8 years, so you didn't do it then still.
Right? Yeah, exactly. You were in a lower position, and now you right next to the nigga, bro. You know what I'm saying? And you realized you're the error of your ways, but now you're not saying that now.
Right.
But now we gotta apologize. And now I've seen the light. And,
now I know better.
After 40 years, that's what y'all meant. My fault. I get it now.
Wait, I shouldn't have been putting all y'all in jail. Oh, yo, you know what?
But
I get it.
But like I said, even then, he was just like, you know what? Yeah, it was kind of crazy, but it got messed up when it got to the state level. Once it got to the state level, that's when it got overblown, and then it. Okay.
It's one thing in the feds, but then the state start doing it.
What did you think was gonna?
That's why we can't be dependent on just the president's result, and that's the biggest thing that most people are tricked into. Like, you pick the president, everything's gonna be all right, which is not the case. You got to do those local ones. The local ones, get your people in there and build that up. But that takes time, and nobody wants to do it. Right.
We none of us really have high hopes for the future. With either one of them, but we looking to try. We willing to see some change, at least
some stability.
Yeah.